Needed to try to get signal.
Oh.
The fun about being in the outdoors is you need internet access. Anyway, I'm here. So welcome everyone, another Friday Connect and Share, and we've got a lineup of speakers for you today. So I'm going to do a quick wrap up, which needless to say, we are continuing on with our lovely camp advocacy at the moment. And for everyone online, I've had on good word that we should be receiving some more news today. So as that happens, we'll certainly get that out to the industry quickly and efficiently on the information that we get. So I just wanted to quickly say that we had a great meeting with the Minister of Education New South Wales last Friday. Some great conversation, a lot of information transacting in between that day and today. So hopefully that leads to some great news in the very, very near future. And my apologies, I want to acknowledge the traditional lands which we all meet today, and I'm sure you are all very well connected to what we stand for in the outdoors about health and wellbeing, that brings forth some education elements in the traditional owners of the land, and see how we can build that into our experiences every day. So I'm going to quickly introduce you. Now I'm hoping he's online because I can't see him there, Leslie, but is Mark online?
Yes, there he is.
Fabulous. Awesome. Mark, great to meet you. Now, everyone, Mark is our new contact at the Office of Children's Guardian for the sport and recreation sector. So you might remember that Harris has presented a couple of times on these forums, and we are now welcoming our new member to our outdoors family from the Office of Guardian, and that is Mark. So Mark, I want to hand over to you and give us a little bit of an update on your role and anything you want to share with us.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on the meeting. Much appreciated. So yeah, I'm the new point of contact basically for the recreation sector for anything to do with the child safe standards in the coming years. We also have my colleague Matt Sibley. He's looking after sport, so we will have that little bit of a crossover between sectors, but I'll be your primary contact for anything you need. So this was basically just about me coming in and saying g'day and introducing myself and letting you know that anything you need, just touch base basically, and I'll help you as much as I can. Keen to keep the ball rolling on anything that's already been happening with Harris. I've got a few meetings teed up with him to go through exactly what's been happening. I've only been in the role since last Wednesday, so I'm still getting my head around everything myself. But yeah, so in the coming months, it's just going to be all about starting to build that capability with a real focus on the leadership and culture standards coming in, and then proceed with that, a different set of standards every couple of months. But we'll be doing some assessments and getting out and hopefully being able to come out and meet with people. So if anyone wants to tee up an assessment, it is a voluntary thing. You come to us and ask for one so we can come and see where you're at with implementing the standards and getting them up and running. Hit me up. We're keen to work together as much as possible and get some great things going. So like I said, if there's any questions, just feel free to contact me at any time. I might throw in my contact info in the chat for everyone, just so you've got my direct line. And yeah, just thanks for having me on board, and I look forward to doing some really good things in the next couple of years to get these standards going really good.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mark.
Cool.
And I know we've briefly spoken in between Harris and yourself and me about some training for the industry as well, in case they need to sort of update their knowledge and understanding of the code and various other aspects. So look forward to having that come in the future, and welcome aboard to the family of the outdoors.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we'll be doing our webinars, and we've got a whole new resource team to get some really good resources built and out to everyone. So yeah, it's an exciting couple of months coming up. Definitely.
Brilliant. Great.
Cool.
Well, feel free to stick around and hear what we've
got to say definitely.
And you're welcome to join any Friday.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care, Mark. Okay, bye. Tamara, are you online? I'm hoping that you're able to also tell us a little bit more about your project, which sounds extremely exciting. It's some guidelines on inland water. Is that correct, Tamara? Oh, sorry, no, Tamara is, sorry, that's Stacey. Stacey's up next. So, Stacey, are you there?
Stacey is here.
Yes. There she is.
Hi,
Sorry
Laurie.
about that. I got you and Tamara mixed up. So, Stacey, you've got some guidelines to share with us today that are on exhibition and awaiting feedback. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Well, thank you so much for having me to start with. It sounds like a very positive group, and I'm looking forward to chatting to you all. And Laurie, you look very festive, so it makes me feel very Christmassy, which is great. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that I'm in, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation here in Sydney. And I'm from Royal Lifesaving, so some of you may be aware of what we do, some of you might not be. We focus on water safety in inland waterways, pools, swimming pools, so public and home swimming pools, swimming lessons, all those types of things. So we are different from Surf Lifesaving, but both organisations are very much committed around reducing drowning and water safety across the country. So as Laurie mentioned, we've recently released our guidelines for inland waterway safety. And I did have a bit of a presentation. But I feel like this is quite an informal, I guess, forum. And I can share my screen if that's right. And I can flip through them very quickly. But really, yeah, is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think certainly if you haven't already, Leslie will be able to give you the access to share.
Yes, I've made you a co-host, so you should be able to.
Okay, let's do that. So you can see the presentation. Is that correct at the moment?
Yeah, we've got that.
Okay, excellent. And I think I'm going to have to stop sharing and then flick it back. It's one thing after almost a year that people are still a bit confused about sharing presentations. There we go. So our guidelines for inland waterway safety have very much come around, I guess, because there is a gap in terms of safety guidelines. Royal Lifesaving's had guidelines in place for safe pool operations across the country for nearly 20 years. And a lot of, I guess, work health and safety and coroners refer to those guidelines for safe pool operations. But there was nothing, I guess there was a gap in terms of inland waterway safety. And we know lots of people use inland waterways, such as yourselves online and the other members as well. But there's also a lot of land management or landowners and all those types of things as well. So this has been a work in progress over the last few years, and it is out for consultation. So I'd be really happy to receive any feedback throughout. You can email us afterwards or anything like that, but I'll give you a quick overview about what it's, so you've got a bit of an idea, and then after this you can go away and have a look at the guidelines yourself as well. Is it not letting me? There we go. So the background is the Australian Water Safety Strategy has always included inland waterways as being a focus area for reducing drowning. And the new Australian Water Safety Strategy was actually released earlier on this year. So that was around, the target is for reducing drowning by 50% over the next 10 years. And rivers and lakes in particular are one key area in the strategy. And so as you see there, it's really much some of those key activities are around partnering with a whole bunch of different stakeholders, so outside of the water safety sector, because that's really important, partners like yourselves who are using the waterways all the time, tourism, agriculture, all those types of, I guess, different stakeholders that are involved in inland waterways and using them as well. And one of the key areas that we've looked at for the last little while is developing local water safety plans. And there are a few councils across the country who have started this already, but we do see these guidelines as being a key part of that as well. So I guess reducing drowning in rivers and lakes is really important, and it is a key target for us, but we also want to make sure that everyone else is on board with that as well in terms of safety for children, for adults, and for everyone. And also, I guess, just to give you a bit of a background in terms of the numbers, rivers and creeks are actually the leading location for drowning across Australia, and lots of people don't realise that. So there's obviously a lot of focus on coastal drowning and the beaches and things like that. Yeah, rivers are the leading location. They have been for a little while, although at Royal Lifesaving we have focused on river drowning prevention for the last 5 years or so. One of my colleagues actually did her PhD to learn more about river drowning. And so that's really, I guess, been the emphasis and the evidence that have informed these guidelines, as well as some of our prevention campaigns like Respect the River and things like that as well. So as I said, there's lots of relationships, as you're all well aware, and lots of activities that go on in terms of inland waterway relationships and things like that that lead to drowning, but also the prevention part of it's really, really important as well. And that's hopefully where you will all come in and be part of that and be part of these informing these guidelines going forward. One of the research papers that Amy and I did together looked at the ownership of, I guess, the waterways where people drowned. And it was very interesting in terms of, obviously, there are multiple stakeholders. So it could be local government, parks and wildlife, other water authorities that are responsible for dams and things like that. But there is very much, I guess, a lack in terms of the regulatory guidelines and things like that, and who was responsible for safety, what the prevention strategies were, and often it is signage as being one, but there's obviously a whole lot of other stuff that can come into that as well. And particularly because these waterways are used by a whole bunch of different providers, activity providers, a whole bunch of different people, and obviously lots of different activities as well. So that was really one key study that we did that, again, has influenced the development of these guidelines. So we've talked about, I guess, all the different stakeholders already. I'll get into the guideline structure. So the guidelines that we've developed, the document provides an overview of inland waterways, a little bit of the research that I've already talked about, goes into the description of the hazards and the risks, which I'm sure you're all aware of, and then some of the strategies to reduce that systematic risk and the management of hazards and things like that. And then it goes into the actual guidelines and suggested minimum standards for the document. So the requirements are looking at, I guess, description of hazards, how to mitigate them with all the different water bodies. So we've certainly tried to outline all of the different inland waterway bodies, right through from rivers and streams and creeks and dams, even right through to man-made ones. So man-made dams and stormwater drains and things like that. And you might think, stormwater drains sound odd, but actually in the Northern Territory, that's quite a big problem when flooding comes around and kids playing in stormwater drains. So they've got a big push up there and quite a big campaign with kids not playing in stormwater drains, and even people who kayak. I've read a few cases, unfortunately, of people who kayak. So this covers kind of that full spectrum. So hopefully it does cover everything. And then, going into the strategies to mitigate those hazards. So the guidelines have 8 different areas: risk management, local water safety planning, activity zoning, supervision of aquatic programs, which would be really good to get some of your feedback on that, understanding that a lot of you do provide programs in that space. Safety signage that adhere to the Australian standards, the swimming and water safety areas, public awareness and education campaigns, which we do a lot of as well, and then the public rescue equipment, which can also be a little bit controversial as well in terms of sort of some councils do it, some councils don't, and those types of things. So that's sort of the 8 areas of the guidelines at the moment. And so I guess what we're looking for is, in terms of responsibilities, obviously local government is a big one in terms of setting local policy. And we've seen in the last 6 to 12 months, there have been a couple of councils who have really taken inland waterway safety seriously. So Wagga Council, for example, have done a lot of work in this area in terms of putting in safety equipment, like you can see there, and putting in an inland waterway safety plan. So we've been working, our Royal Lifesaving office in that area has been working with them around that, and looking at training, qualifications, all those types of things as well. And so I've kind of already talked around that. So our next steps, the draft for consultation is now out. So it'd be really great if you had the time. Don't worry, they're not due before Christmas or anything like that when everyone else has got deadlines and things, but we've got them out till February. So if you do have time to download and have a look through and to provide some feedback, we would really appreciate that. We are going to be setting up a steering group. So we've already got one in place for the guidelines for safe pool operations. So we're looking to establish something similar with stakeholders from across sectors and across Australia to help guide and implement. And obviously it will take a little while in terms of, I guess, how it works and all that type of thing, but learning from the councils that have already got plans in place, but also looking at some of the other, I guess, guidelines that are in place. I know Laurie said that there's one out at the moment for activities that do good practice guidelines for activities on inland waterways. So some of those guidelines most definitely inform these as well, but it would be great to bring, I guess, both strategies can align and bounce off each other as well. So I guess that's kind of the guidelines in a nutshell at the moment. A lot to digest, and I didn't want to go too much into detail. But as I said, it would be really great if we could have some feedback, and we really do want a broad range of stakeholders involved in this as well, not just, I guess, local councils and things like that, because everyone does use the waterways for different reasons. Yeah, so it would be great to have your feedback. But again, thank you, Laurie, for the opportunity to present to your members. We really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Stacey, and that was great. Thank you so much. It gave us a really good overview. And for those that haven't got the link, I'm sure you'll pop it in the chat for people, but it was also in the members newsletter last week. So you can read a little bit about it in the newsletter. But yes, please give your feedback, because, you know, all of these tools go to help improving what we stand for as an industry, which is safety, and in making sure that people have enjoyable times out in the outdoors. So thank you again, Stacey, and you're welcome to also attend any Friday with our connection tours. So
thank you so much, and we wish everyone a really safe and happy summer. And we know that there's a bit of rain around, so please be careful in floodwaters as well, which is also included in the guidelines. So thank you so much. Have a lovely Christmas and summer, everyone.
Thank you so much. So next we have Tamara, who is from Aussie Bush Kid Adventures. Is that right, Tamara? I think I've got the name wrong, but you're doing some amazing stuff with NDIS. We'd love to hear more.
Okay, it's Aussie Kids Adventure Camps. So
I was close.
we love the Great Aussie Bush Camp, but we're not them. They're much bigger than us. So we're located up on the mid-north coast, and we are, like all of you guys, in the outdoor education arena, but we specialise with working with children who have disabilities. So I thought I'd just give you a bit of an overview of how we started and sort of what our plan is, because we just noticed that a lot of outdoor education operators haven't been operating much or at all during the last 2 years, and we've pretty solidly worked other than the state lockdowns. So I am a trained primary school teacher, and I've also worked in the community services sector, and those two together, along with a love of the outdoors and camping, led me to start my own business 4 years ago. And with a small team of 3 to start with, we've built up, starting with school holiday camps and then moving into the disability sector 12 months after we started, and then going from strength to strength, starting in Port Macquarie, moving up to Coffs Harbour, down to Newcastle, and this weekend our first camp in Sydney is going to operate, which is really exciting. And that's linked in with Sport and Rec, the facility there at Milson Island, which they approached us and asked us if we wanted to come there and use their facilities. So we're very blessed for that to happen. So from starting as a school holiday camp, which is similar to what a lot of outdoor education people do in the school term, we were doing a very similar program in the holidays. Then rolling into the more specialised, we also work with children from trauma backgrounds as well, and a main focus on children with disabilities. So registered as an NDIS provider 3 years ago. I've just re-registered, and with very limited marketing other than a few emails, through word of mouth, Internet connection's unstable. Through word of mouth and networking, we've grown from strength to strength. We're fully booked out, and next year I haven't released the dates, but it will be the same. So with big wait lists on our camps. So what I'm here about today is just wanting to share our program with other outdoor education providers who may be in a situation where they haven't been working during the school terms. This program you can offer on weekends. You can offer it in the school holidays as well. It's different to a lot of outdoor education programs, not all of them, but some of them, because we don't do big numbers. We do small groups. You can do bigger numbers, but isolating the groups is important. It's well funded by the NDIS. And like I said, there's a big demand. We have actually the first 3 clients that we had with us on our very first camp still come to camps, and one of them is up to her 30th camp in January. So the kids just love it. They're getting outdoors. They're doing and having all those experiences. That's great for their mental health. They're socialising. They're being physically active. And this demographic of kids are huge gamers, online constantly. That's how they're making their connections with other kids. They struggle in the schoolyard. They'd struggle on a mainstream school camp. So this is introducing them to that experience where they're supported, so then they can go on the mainstream camps more comfortably. So I went a bit off track then, but that's okay. So what we're going to do next year is launch our program whereby other organisations in the outdoor education industry and outside of that as well, probably in the disability sector, can work with us and purchase our program and then launch it in their area. It'll be like a white label program or holding the catch-all program title. So that's what we call our program, the catch-all program. At the moment, what we're doing is we're crazy busy. So it's launching next year. We're just sort of putting it out there to anybody that's interested. If they want to look at an alternative program for their operation, then this might be something to consider. So if anyone's interested, you can contact me and I'll put all my details in that chat as well. And I'm happy to chat with anyone as well about if you're thinking of the NDIS and going that way and you have questions, I'm more than happy to have a chat about that sort of thing as well. And thanks, Laurie, as well.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Tamara, and that's such a great story that you've managed to really turn around. I don't want to use the word pivot because I think everyone's been using that overzealously in the last 12 months, but yeah, well done on what you've managed to achieve. I think it's a great outcome, and now looking at partnering with others is just awesome. Does anyone have any questions for Tamara? And on that note too, Stacey's staying online on the inland waterways, but I thought if we can get some people asking questions on Tamara's project at the moment, is there anyone that wants to jump in?
I'm here, Laurie. Tamara, I know you said you're on the mid-north New South Wales coast, which we in Queensland like to call the far south coast. But are you interested in rolling it out in Queensland as well? I know you're Aussie kids adventure camps, not just New South Wales kids. If you wanted to do that, we'd be happy to promote it too up here if you're interested in Queensland operators as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a program that can be implemented Australia-wide, and we've actually had a lot of inquiry from Queenslanders as far as Cairns and Ipswich, which is kind of why it's so good for the kids, and the more people that can run it, the more opportunity there is for the kids, because these guys are the ones that struggle the most, like I said, on a school camp, and once they have these opportunities, they just love it. So yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Awesome, Dom, that's great. Rob, do you want to unmute yourself and ask a question? I can't quite read it from a mobile. The computer's not working here.
Yeah. Hi, Tamara. Rob Gallagher. We've talked. But can you tell people what sort of, if you've got qualifications, or do the NDIS need people with qualifications, and what are they?
Hey, Rob. So it depends. It depends. Like if you registered as a cleaner with the NDIS, then you'd have to have, experience as a cleaner. Depending on the way that they register, depends on their qualification. So if you were a, let's say for you, Rob, I know that your daughter has qualifications, and say your qualifications are in kayaking or paddleboarding. Potentially, if you're supporting children with a disability, you would then employ somebody that would have a degree, or not necessarily a degree, a tertiary educational background in disability.
Awesome. Any other questions on that, Rob, or is that that answer your query?
No, I'll touch base with Tamara later on when we digest it all and see what she's got on offer. Ha ha ha.
Brilliant. That sounds very sinister there. But no, that's awesome. We've got to spread this awesome opportunity. Any other questions from anyone? I can't see any more chats or hands up, but yeah, jump in if you have. Nothing coming through. Okay, cool. Tamara, thank you again. Sorry, go on.
One more on then Tamara then. So Tamara, how are you finding doing your different regions, because we've been talking on this forum here about not being able to get staff, either qualified staff or even interested staff. How are you finding it? Is that why you're franchising it out, because you want to spread the load, or you can find staff? I don't know what.
So you're a little bit right. It's just the workload as well for me and my partner, and I've kind of capped where I want to go with it. But I don't want the opportunity to not be spread. Staffing's an issue for everyone, and I think for every business. I'm not staff, I don't have a staff shortage, so I've been okay finding staff, but I am pretty vicious in how I do that. I email unis, and I email, if I've got a staff member who's, I have one that's almost actually just finished paramedic. So I'll talk to them. Do you have any more friends who are paramedics? And do you have any more? Yeah. So I make lots and lots of network connections around my staff that I have, plus connections that I have. So for me, I probably could go and do another camp out at Tamworth and use staff. But it's just that I have a family, and it's all about time and then employing more people. And that's not my goal. That's not my business goal to get that big on statewide, or even I know some people do like to do that, but not me. So yeah, so that's why I'm like, well, I'd rather offer it to other people, and then they have the opportunity. But I know there has been problems with staffing, but I have to say I haven't had any problems getting staff, no.
Awesome. Anything else, Rob?
All good.
Yep, great. Okay, thank you so much. And if there's no other questions for tomorrow, thank you again very much for coming along and sharing that. I'm looking forward to seeing all the results of what you're achieving. So we might just kick on now. I just want to go back to Stacey's. Did anyone have any questions specific to Stacey's presentation on the inland guidelines, inland water guidelines? Yeah, any clarification or any other questions?
I think Dave has his hand up. You want to ask something, Dave?
Yeah, well, obviously we need to review our inland water kayaking and rafting guidelines to make sure that the things mesh. But it would be good to get a good practice guide in the Advanced Activity Standard framework on all the other activities that camps or other outdoor people might provide, like swimming, hiking, crossing rivers and things like that. So is that something we should be working with Lifesaving Australia on.
We could definitely do that. I think, I mean, we've drawn on a lot of existing, I was going to say that we've drawn on existing documents. There's not a lot, I guess, in the inland space. So for what there is and to bring in some of those activity providers and what you all do on the water, I think that would be really important. And we can definitely reference those guidelines as well in our documents. So yes, most definitely we can work together to align both of those. That would be great.
Awesome. Yeah, great point, Dave. And thank you, Stacey. I think this conversation will continue.
Yeah, Dom's got his hand up now too, so go for it, Dom.
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks, Aussie. Yeah, I guess the thing, and I was going to ask a similar question to what Dave's just asked about the adventure activity standards and the good practice guides. I've only had a quick look at the guidelines, basically when Laurie put it out I think it was last week or the week before, I don't know, time is blurry for me at the minute as it is for so many. But I think the distinction really from when I had a look at it was the adventure activity standards are specifically about led activities, so with dependent participants, whereas your guidelines are actually much broader in the sense of they're focused on inland waterways, but I even noticed they included water troughs as one of the waterways that is included. Like, it's quite amazing what's included in there. I don't know of how many lead activities we're going to have on a water trough, but certainly in the other inland waterways there's plenty. But it's also, you're also looking at how do you make these waterways safe for independent people who are just going to turn up and go for a swim or go for a paddle on that billabong or whatever else, the river. And I think that's probably the difference where we're talking about how do you, as a leader of an activity, make it as safe as possible, whereas the focus of these guidelines are actually about how do we make the waterways as safe as possible. So I think it'd be really great to tie them together, because a big part of what we do is the leaders and the organisations doing that risk assessment and making sure we're delivering the activities in a responsible manner. But what you're really looking at is, I think, the waterways, making them safer and including the the signage and that sort of stuff in that space. But yeah, I think they need to gel together really well. But yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. We'll certainly put some feedback in as well, Stacey. So thank you for that.
That's great. No, I think you're completely right. And that's where we can link to, as you say, activity providers, and this would be the guidelines that they would use. But in the full document, there are, I guess, the risk assessment guidelines and templates as well. If people need templates for risk assessment and for doing different activities and things like that. So you may not use all of it, but there is kind of the templates and other documents there for people to use if they just want to sort of pick and choose what's relevant for them as well.
Yeah, brilliant. No, that's great. Thank you, Stacey. Anyone else? Any other questions for Stacey?
Hugh, did you have your hand up, or did I imagine that? That's you.
I did have my hand up, and I think I was basically going to say the same thing as Dom was saying, that that these appear to be kind of about land managers managing risk, and that perhaps a sensible way to go about coming down to an operational level of people operating might be to link into the AAAS rather than trying to have two sets of standards attempting to do the same thing, which is always a potential cause for headaches. But yeah, like I say, Dom said it, so I'm not sure why I went into it a second time.
Thank you. Anyone else? No?
Okay.
All good?
I think we're done.
Fabulous. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Stacey, again for being with us. So, guys, I just want to give you a quick update on what we've been up to this last week. Thank you to all of our members that participated in the second webinar that we had for Careers in the Outdoors with the Department of Education and the REAP team. I can't remember what REAP stands for, but basically it's Careers from School. And yeah, we had a very good session, which is now recorded and on our YouTube channel if you want to catch that up. But it gave a bit of a flavour for the jobs that are available in the sector right now, and some good understanding on basically careers in the outdoors. So again, thank you to our members that participated in that. Work continues with the workforce development team, and I believe most operators now who are wanting to reach out to that service have connected with the team there and are doing some great stuff, including connecting with the jobs brokers in your relevant areas. There's a lot of work, obviously, as we said earlier, the advocacy side of things, and working with Business New South Wales in getting those case studies on not only the camps and what's happening there, but the jobs aspect, and really planning for what we believe 2022 is going to be a significant reboot for our industry. Guys, this is our last Connect and Share for the year. It gives us a couple of weeks to really wrap everything up and get ready for 2022. So I wanted to really give you a heartfelt thank you for participating every Friday as you come on and see what we have to say and see what we have to share. But we believe that these are an important aspect of what we can continue to provide you so that we can navigate some of the pathways that probably a little bit more challenging for small businesses in the time aspect, and we can certainly make up a bit of that ground for you and deliver some great content. I'd love any feedback you have on the Connect and Shares to make them more applicable to you going forward. And I think that when we start them back in January, again, any feedback on what you'd like to see in the sessions will certainly help us gain a little bit more knowledge and information and shared amongst the whole industry. I will open it up to any questions or chat about what's happening or anything else if anyone wants to share. But until January, I think it was the last Friday in January is our first session. So I think it's just after Australia. It makes it about the 28th, I think, of January. We'll see you back for Connect and Shares. Happy hour will continue this afternoon, and we will reinstate those back in January as well for the casual chat on a Friday afternoon. So can I open it up to any comments or discussion at this point in time?
Well, we might need counselling if we don't have a Connect and Share every Friday for the next bit. Yeah, what are we going to do on Friday? Yeah.
Maybe get outdoors like I am today. I'm visiting a few of our members and getting out and about. So I needed that after the week that we've had. So maybe everyone should be doing that.
How have you got sun, Laurie? Where have you gone to?
I've gone
in New Zealand.
How good's this? Look at the sun. No, hopefully it's going to stick around, but I'm not too sure. I think there's a bit of rain event on its way again. So making the most of it. Well, I thought, right, I'm going to get outside and run it, so, as opposed to sitting inside today. Right, anyone else want to jump in? Otherwise, we'll give you a little bit of an early mark. Yes, you got a 15-minute early mark for today on our last one. May I wish everyone a very, very Merry Christmas and a very safe Christmas and New Year. To really recharge and get refreshed for what will be 2022. So you'll see our Christmas newsletter come out next week. But from all the board, Leslie and Helen, we wish you an awesome Christmas. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Laurie. Thanks, Leslie. And thanks